We're going to start our coverage of this European finals meeting with the competition bike. Lady rider there just getting ready to set off on this run. This is the final run of this competition. Is Dani Dieppe, the French girl, and she's up against Roel Kouwedam.
Hello, my name is Roel Kouwedam. I'm running competition bike and the bike number is 838.
Well, these two have worked their way through to this final stage on their 800 to 1000 horsepower machines, ready to do battle.
Je m'appelle Dani Dieppe, je cours sur une compétition bike numéro 5.
Well, Roel Kouwedam it was who was fastest qualifier between these two. Now the question is, can he repeat that sort of performance in this final run? Ready for the lights to change. And then who's it going to be? It's an 1/8 of a mile strip that they're running on. Who's it going to be first to the end? Watch the Christmas tree in the middle there. The lights ready to come on. And off they go. Roel Kouwedam on the outside. It's Dani Dieppe, the French girl, nearest us on the left of the picture. But it is Kouwedam who wins it. Kouwedam fastest with a 6.730 seconds, 180 kilometers an hour. His terminal speed, that's about 110 miles per hour.
The woman, not Dani Dieppe.
Yeah, she was very good at the lights. She surprised me, but at the end, yeah, we get her.
So Kouwedam, the winner of the first of the finals that we're seeing in this program. Next up, it's the cars in the Super Street class. These the modified road cars, big American muscle machines that we're watching here. The blue Mustang of Solaro, and he lines up alongside Arno. These big, sticky, slick tyres, Hoosier tyres being used by Arno, and special compounds being used to make these tyres as sticky as possible and ready to set off. Just getting them up to temperature. The burnout is an important part of the preparation sequence. Really getting those rear tyres up to temperature, ready to light them up once those lights change to green. Getting in position, they need 2 white lights ready to go, and then off they go. The battle is on. A very even one this between these 2 big American muscle machines. Almost side by side as they go up across the line. But the winner is Solaro in the blue Mustang. He records a time of just over 8 seconds and a terminal velocity of 90 miles an hour. Well, the taxi sign is a slightly incongruous sight on this street car, and this the car of Iloro. He's battling against the Trans Am there of Rafor. Once again, holding it on the brakes, on the front brakes, and then just getting those rear tyres spinning to build up a bit of heat in the rubber compound. That's to help him get away as quickly as possible. Rafor versus Hilaro then. Final of the street cars. These are much less modified, virtually standard cars, these ones. So who's it going to be? It's mid-engine machine versus front-engine machine. And it looks as though the better traction for Hilaro is just helping him get away, and it's Hilaro who wins it. 128 kilometers an hour at the end of the strip. That's just about 80 miles an hour. So we asked him about the taxi sign on the top, and he says, well, no, it's not usually a taxi, it's just a bit of fun. On to the Pro Street class then. And these very, very modified machines with more standard-looking bodywork, but certainly fairly modified. Interesting contrast here. We've got the immaculately prepared Mark I Cortina of Haku, and he's up against Santin in this slightly less immaculately prepared car. Well, there's the Cortina, and there is Santin's car ready to set off on this final. This, in fact, is the battle for 3rd and 4th places. It's the sort of pre-final in the Pro Street class. We'll see the final in just a moment. Off they go then, and well, it's an excellent run for the Cortina. He blasts away up this 1/8 of a mile strip and takes the win. So Haku the winner, 160 kilometers an hour at the end. That's about 100 miles an hour at the finish line. on to the final then of this Pro Street class, and to decide the overall classification for first and second. Vandendorp in his fairly unique looking car, his state car, up against Serron in the yellow Corvette. So this the battle to decide the overall winner of the Pro Street class. These fairly modified machines, off they go then. And it's a good start from Serron on the outside there, the right-hand side of our picture. And it looks as though he's going to take that advantage all the way to the line. Yes, he does. So Serron is the winner, 184 kilometers an hour at the end of the strip. That's about 112 miles per hour, 6.647 the elapsed time. We're going to come back here on Eurosport with more drag racing. Make sure you stay with us.
In the pursuit of happiness.
Welcome back to Dieppe, welcome back to drag racing here on Eurosport, as we now take a look at the final of the top gas class on the motorbikes. These bikes based on Harley Davidsons and running on high octane petrol rather than some of the more sophisticated concoctions. And we've got Alex Schwendinger versus Bernd Kramer in this particular runoff. That's Bernd Kramer just warming up, getting ready to go. Schwendinger on the more yellow machine. So ready to set off then in this final to see who's going to take the top gas event here at Dieppe. See the big frame on the back to stop the bike doing the wheelie. Off they go then. And on the far side, Bernd Kramer seems to be going well, but no, Schwendinger coming back at him on the number 17. Well, he nearly gets into trouble at the line there as he shuts off, and it's Schwendinger nearest the camera here who takes the victory. 173 kilometers an hour, 106 miles per hour at the end of the strip is the time he achieves.
Alex Schwendinger, Autrichien d'origine. You speak English? Are you happy?
Of course we are happy. We win the race, and I hope the organizer earned a lot of money about all the spectators. They came to see the drag race to maybe give us a bit more rubber on the track for next season. A bit more speed, better times.
Next year, perhaps.
We'll see.
Well, Alex Schwendinger looking forward to coming back next year perhaps, but just saying that the track itself needs a little bit more rubber laying down to give him a bit more grip.
I come from Coventry, England. Pro stock bike number 4.
We're on to the pro stock bikes now. Paul Willis introducing himself, and he's up against another Briton.
My name is Len Paget. I race pro stock bike, and my race number is number 3.
Well, these the more standard of the two-wheeled class. About 250 horsepower. They run with a 1300cc engine. And is it going to be Paul Willis on the left or Len Paget who's going to take the victory here? Screaming away, and it is Len Paget who takes the win. Terminal speed of 211 kilometers an hour. That's about 130 miles per hour at the end of the 1/8 mile. Back to the cars now. These are the competition cars that we're looking at now. And this the classic shape of the dragster, the rail, and this is being driven by Willy Strobel. Now these are not the most powerful of the cars that we're going to be seeing in the drag racing during this program. These competition cars produce in the region of 900 to 1200 horsepower, very complex machines, but not quite as powerful as the top fuel or top alcohol cars that we'll be seeing a little bit later on. Now Willy Strobel is running this particular run on his own. He's got a bye in this particular round, so he's just up against the clock. The lights change, the wheels spin, the tyres grow, and off he goes up towards the end. and he records a time of 6.163 seconds, a speed of 209 kilometers an hour. That's about 129 miles per hour. So as Struble opens up the competition cars competition, let's take a quick look at some of the other cars that have turned up here at Dieppe over the weekend. Of course, a great chance to display and show off some of the American cars that are around in this part of France and in this part of Europe. In fact, many people coming from all over Europe this weekend to show off their American muscle cars. And drag racing, of course, huge sport in the United States, where it's one of the most popular of the motor racing sports, always attracting huge crowds, and a sport that started off by producing cars like this just after the Second World War and developing into these sort of cars that we see here today, these rails, these single-seater, highly tuned machines ready to pick up the competition. So we're looking at the pre-final for the competition cars now, the decider for third and fourth places, and it's Jean Doulemont versus Alain Pinel. This is Doulemont, ready to set off, ready for his burnout, get those tyres up to temperature. Then he rolls it back down, and he's up against the Team Crocodile car of Alain Pinel. So these 1200 horsepower machines, supercharged, running on methanol, ready for his burnout as well. Now that liquid that they're pouring down just ahead of the tyres there, that helps the tyre get to its perfect sticky state, ready to try and transmit all of that power through to the surface of this airfield here at Dieppe. Plenty of space for this competition. It's about 2 hours drive from Paris, and off they go then. And whoa, Pinel gets it all a little bit crossed up. Now that's going to cost him a little bit of time, but nevertheless it looks as though he's had a good run, and indeed, yes, Alain Pinel just taking the victory there. And 6.145 seconds, 198 kilometers an hour. That's around about 125 at the end of the 8th mile. Okay, on to the final of the competition cars now. We've decided that Alain Pinel in third position, but who is it going to be first and second, or who's going to take the victory out of these two? It's Youn versus Holub. Youn on the left and Holub in the rail on the right-hand side of the picture. And we get ready for them to set off. Oh, and there's a red light. There's a jump start for Youn. So he doesn't get to record a time, and that means that Holub has already won it. So you see his pit crew absolutely delighted, leaping up and down in the background as Holub takes the win, even without having to take it to the end of the strip, because Youn jumped the start and therefore out of the race. Well, we had a word with Holub, and he says, well, problems for the other car, but never mind, we took the victory, and obviously happy with that. The team absolutely delighted as well. We asked him how long he's been doing drag racing. He says, well, I've been racing drag racing now for about 11 years, and I've been with this team for 6 years, and it's certainly great stuff. Okay, well, there's the final classifications then. We're going to come back with some more great action here on Eurosport in just a moment. Welcome back to drag racing once again on Eurosport. We're taking a look now at the finals of the Pro Street Cars, and we've got two Dutch drivers up against each other in this Pro Street Car final. Zijlstra versus De Boer. And let's see who is going to take the victory in this Pro Street class. So very modified road class. And look at that, just pouring down a little bit of that compound and then doing the burnout just on that liquid. That makes the tyre just super sticky enough, ready to take it away. There again, you can see the liquid being poured onto the concrete. The driver just rolling the car up forward a little bit, then the burnout, and that gets the tyre to its perfect state, ready for the start. So watch the Christmas tree lights in the middle again. Wait for the start, and who is it going to be to take victory here? off they go then. Well, it's a fairly even start, but just up there on the outside, De Boer looks to have the slight advantage, and De Boer it is who takes the victory. 187 kilometers an hour, about 115 miles an hour, and there we see the winner of the Pro Street class. Well, let's have a word with De Boer, just clambering out of his car at the end of that run, and suitably happy with his victory.
Are you happy to win?
Yes, it's always fun to win a drag race, especially here, a bad track and going fast. Thank you.
Eh oui, les deux concurrents se serrent la main, c'est bien normal. Hein. En plus, ils sont hollandais tous les deux.
Oui, tous les deux hollandais.
Et ils parlent français en plus.
Un petit peu.
Eh ben alors on va parler en français, c'est merveilleux. Content d'être venu en France courir du dragster?
Yes, content. It's okay to win here, and a lot of people, and it's nice to win.
So very happy De Boer taking the victory in the Pro Street class, and the rest of the positions in that particular series. Well, we next turn our attention to the real fast machines, the top alcohol class. We're going to look now at the A group for the positions 3rd and 4th. This is the battle that's going on.
Top alcohol dragster 112.
Doug Bond introducing himself, and he's up alongside another Briton.
Ken McCormack, TAFC 120, funny car.
So Ken McCormack on the far side and his Corvette funny car there, and Doug Bond in his rail on the left-hand side of your picture. Let's see who's going to take the victory. The two Britons ready to go. And off they go. Well, oh, and it looks as though on the far side Ken McCormack got into a bit of trouble there and perhaps had to lift off the throttle. That cost him a little bit of time, and it's Doug Bond who takes the win in the rail. 201 kilometers an hour, that's 125 miles per hour, and victory to Doug Bond. Well, both those will be racing at Santa Pod this weekend. The Budweiser World Finals are taking place at Santa Pod this weekend, and many of these competitors will be competing there this weekend. On to the next final then of the top alcohol. This is the A final, and Bob Fieler introducing himself, top Frenchman, previous European champion many times, and he's up against another Briton.
Dave Wilson, Team Krypton, top alcohol dragster.
So this is the final of the top alcohol series then, and these are very, very potent machines, producing in the region of, well, anywhere really between 2,000 and 3,500 horsepower. In fact, some of the top alcohol machines producing up to near 4,000 horsepower, but the track here at Dieppe not really suitable for the more powerful machines, as there isn't as much grip as some of them would really like. So Bob Fieler, the Frenchman, on the left-hand side then, and using that 7.5 litre V8 engine, supercharged machine, up against David Wilson. Who's it going to be? Well, big smoke from Bob Fieler, but he just comes through to take the victory. Bob Fieler just takes the win, and the Frenchman delighted to perform so well in front of his home crowd. Well, it didn't look as though he was going to be able to take the win, because there David Wilson got a great start, not too much wheel spin, whereas Bob Fieler creating all sorts of smoke, and it really didn't look as though he was going to be able to make up the ground after not such a good start. But he did, and Fieler, the Frenchman, who's raced drag racing in the United States with a lot of success as well, making a triumphant return here. Well, we asked him, how was it? The difference only 0.11 of a second between him and David Wilson. And he said, well, yeah, he said, I know I had problems with too much wheel spin at the start of the run, and that dropped me back a little bit. And then I had a bit of a problem shifting up into third gear as well. So then I was struggling to try and catch up, but then I just began to pull him in, and I could see catching him up, and certainly I had to work very hard indeed, but finally I managed to draw alongside and just pip him on the line.
J'ai vu quand même que j'avais passé la ligne avant lui, mais c'était... D'ailleurs, je regardais plus la piste, je regardais que sa voiture.
Alors ce qui est étonnant, regardez, je ne sais pas si vous le voyez, le public, il y a de la condensation qui se fait, on croirait qu'il a plu, pourtant il n'a pas plu.
Well, we asked him a little bit about the supercharger on his car, as we saw the water all surrounding the supercharger. There you can see water droplets. Well, in fact, he's telling us how the ice is produced with the amount of air that's going into that supercharger, and it actually freezes on top of the supercharger and then remelts. So they're the positions from the Top Alcohol Series. Bob Feeler, the winner from Dave Wilson. Well, this is the B final for the Top Alcohol. Now, separate series for the Top Alcohol B Championship cars. And we've got a couple of Britons again. Frank Bennett there, the man from Essex, and he's up against Andy Hill on the left-hand side. So this is the battle for third in the B final. Oh, Frank Bennett makes a superb start. And he sets off at a fair old pace, and it looks as though he's going to take a fairly easy win here. Frank Bennett taking victory, 6.497 seconds, a speed of 125 miles per hour. So Frank Bennett takes that third place in the B class of the Top Alcohol. And we turn our attention now to the top two positions in the B final. Alan Jackson in the blue funny car, getting ready to set off. And he's up against the rail of Robin Reed up on the far side. Once again, the challenge of getting thousands of horsepower through those rear wheels.
Hello, my name's Alan Jackson. I drive alcohol funny car, TAFC 34.
Guys introducing themselves and ready for the off.
My name's Robin Reed, and I'm running in the class here at Dieppe in the Top Alcohol category.
So Robin Reed on the right-hand side, Alan Jackson on the left, as we look at them there. And who is it going to be to take the win in this big final? Oh, there's a red light again, and a jump start for Robin Reed. He set off before the lights changed, so an automatic win then for Alan Jackson. So 193 kilometers an hour at the end of the strip, about 120 miles an hour, and victory for Alan Jackson in the B section for the Top Alcohol. So the final results: Jackson taking victory over Robin Reed second, with Frank Bennett in third. Well, to finish off this drag racing program, we're going to take a look at the Super Rocket car of Bob Feeler. Now, remember, we saw Bob Feeler out earlier. He won the A group of the Top Alcohol, but this is his satanic machine, his amazing rocket-powered dragster, and it's powered by a rocket from the Apollo space rocket, believe it or not. And this thing produces 30,000 horsepower. It only weighs 520 kilograms. So it's about the same weight as a normal racing single-seater, just a fraction lighter than a Formula One car, and it's got 30,000 horsepower from that rocket machine. So Bob Feeler strapping himself in, ready to do a demonstration. This is a pure demonstration, not a competition, as these rocket machines are not allowed to compete against each other, but they are certainly fabulous for the demonstration. It drinks 30 litres of hydrogen peroxide per second. That's about 6.5 gallons per second that this thing gets through, and it accelerates with a force of 12 G. That means that his head is forced back at 12 times its normal weight as he sets off. The countdown begins. Bob Feeler gets ready to go. And just look at that, he's got the parachute out almost before he started. 3.307 seconds and a terminal speed of 380 miles per hour. Well, with that fabulous demonstration from Bob Feeler, that brings the show at Dieppe to a close. You can follow drag racing here on Eurosport on Speed World, our Monday night motorsport program. From Ben Edwards and this drag racing, goodbye.